you talking about? What you talking about? What you talking about? What you talking about, Willis?
Wonderful theologians and scholars have talked about this, and what they say is that Hale-Bopp, Halley's Comet, when these things have been seen in the past, they tend to be harbingers for major upheaval or wars, change of governments, that kind of thing, changes in planetary operation. And it's always 4 years in advance. 4 years in advance. Hale-Bopp and Halley's Comet have those track records.
There is a comet that's known as Halley's Comet. Listen to me very carefully. This comet came through in 66 AD, 4 years prior to the destruction of the temple. This comet was spotted in 12 BC when Herod was expanding the temple platform in Jerusalem. It appeared in 66 AD, listen, 4 years before Jerusalem was destroyed. It appeared in 1910, 4 years before World War I. It appeared in 1988, 4 years before the Gulf War broke out. This comet seems to appear in history 4 years prior to something happening on earth. It's either the overthrow of an empire, a nation, or a king, or a terrible calamity. Do your own research on that. It's extremely interesting. Hale-Bopp comet was 50,000 times brighter than Halley's Comet. We have a picture of it. Now, this was the Hale-Bopp comet. Listen carefully. First seen on April the 27th, 1993, which is on the Hebrew calendar, was the very day that the British mandate ended over the city of Jerusalem. On July 23rd, 1995, it was spotted in a constellation called Sagittarius, which is a half beast and a half man, which is an imagery of the coming Antichrist. It was last seen, I love this, this comet, this is an actual photograph, this comet was last seen, are you ready for this, 4,200 years ago. A gentleman by the name of Wadsworth, who was a Christian astronomer, calculated, I love this, that the last time this comet was seen streaking through the universe was when a man named Noah was building the ark preparing for the flood. The Seder Olam Rabbah, a Jewish writing, according to Bill Cloud, comments that tradition says that Noah saw a comet in the heavens while he's building the ark, which was assigned to him, that the world was going to be destroyed by some kind of cataclysmic judgment. It is also interesting to note that prior to the destruction of the temple in the year 70 AD, this Jewish historian Josephus, who lived back then, started talking about these weird cosmic signs in the heavens. He said, a comet was seen over the city for 1 year. We now know that was the Hale-Bopp comet. But he also said this, and let's show this next picture. He said, a star shaped like a sword appeared in the heavens. This that I'm showing you right now was taken in Italy 4 years before 9/11. Everybody say 4 years. That is a meteorite shower taking place in the paw of Leo the lion. Leo the lion. Now we call it Leo, they call it Leo the lion, but the emblem of Judah is the lion. And coming out of this paw was this meteorite shower that looked like a sword. It's shaped like a sword in the heavens. You can see, and there are some pictures that when you take it up closer, you can even see how it comes to a point. I believe that in the destruction of the temple, that is what they saw hanging over the city for a period of time prior to the destruction, and read it as a cosmic sign of war coming. Hey, 4 years before we go to war on 9/11, that appeared in the Middle East.
Now, November is when the closest approach will be of ISON. It just so happens that if we count 4 years, it ends up right at the mid-tribulation time that I've shown in my timeline. You've seen this chart that I've made in numerous videos, and it is speculative. It's just me putting some things out there visually so that I can see them. Okay? But here's the thing. Hopefully you already know about the Blood Moon Tetrad, which is coming beginning in April. You already know about the Revelation 12 sign, which looks to be in September 23 of 2017, which is a mid-tribulation time period in Revelation. That happens right here at this red arrow. Doesn't mean this is when it actually happens in the sky. This, I took this from Stellarium astronomy software on this very day. Okay, so it's right there. That doesn't mean that the event's going to happen on the day. It means that the sign is there. Signs sometimes precede events, right? So, all this somewhere in here could be mid-tribulation time period. If you count backwards 3.5 years, remember the tribulation is 7 years. Half of it, half and half, would be 3.5 and 3.5. If you count back 3.5 years, it just so happens that it's right at the beginning of this tetrad. Coincidence? You be the judge. But here's the deal. November, ISON, right here. 4 years. History has shown that comets like this, and this could be the brightest comet ever, comets like this are harbingers of major wars, catastrophes, and it's always 4 years in advance. They're warnings, they're harbingers. Now look, if we see this right here in November, we count 4 years. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right at this mid-trib point again. Well, what happens mid-trib? Revelation 12, the whole chapter, is middle of the tribulation events. Now, the first thing that I showed you is there's a great sign appears in heaven. There's another sign that appears in heaven. And then what happens in Revelation 12:7, war broke out in heaven. This is probably one of the most massive wars because it's between Michael and his angels and Satan and the fallen ones. War broke out in heaven. Michael and his angel fought with the dragon and his angels fought, but they did not prevail, nor was a place found for them in heaven any longer, because they still have access to heaven, meaning the space around our planet. Not the high heavens. They were kicked out of there a long time ago. So the great dragon was cast out, that serpent of old, called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. He was cast to the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. That's a mid-trib event, and it's massive. Satan comes to earth, and he is not... There's no place found for them in heaven any longer, meaning they can't get off the planet and they are stuck here to do what they're going to do. And they pursue new believers who came to salvation after the rapture. They're called tribulation saints. And of course, he's going to be pursuing the woman, right, which is the nation of Israel. The dragon saw that he had been cast to earth, and he pursued the woman who gave birth to the male child. Obviously, our Messiah came through the Jewish bloodline. So this is the event that happens in the middle of the tribulation period. It just so happens. I mean, what are the odds that all these things are lining up like this? 4 years. It's established. 4 years. And it just so happens that it ends up right here, okay, with everything else.
So if it survives that pass through the sun in November, then on Thanksgiving night, we could see something.
So we have some time to watch this thing still.
We'll remind you as the date gets closer so you can stock up on snacks and beverages, but a comet is coming, a big and brilliant comet arriving in November 2013. It could potentially be 15 times brighter than the moon and visible in broad daylight over the U.S.
Regardless of how long it is that period between this shuttle event and the beginning of the kill shot sequence, we know as viewers, and I personally viewed this particular event on a number of times because it's so powerful, that all of these warring parties that we see on the planet, all these many wars, that on the ground, all of these soldiers look up in the sky. They all look up. So something is happening in the sky. In fact, there's probably unprecedented atmospheric effects that in a recorded history, perhaps an unrecorded history, there's been events like this, but nothing in recorded history. Something happens in the atmosphere that has not been seen before, because all these soldiers are looking up, and then they go home. Their priorities change. They go home. So that's when it starts.
It's still very far away. It'll get brighter in the night sky soon. It'll be this summer, maybe visible to the naked eye.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't need a telescope? We don't need Hubble? We can go in our backyards and watch this?
That's the best thing about this. You know, starting in September, leading all the way up to Christmas, it should be an amazing night sky sight. Its tail, long now, could stretch across the night sky if it.
What would we see if it behaves and acts the way you expect it to?
Well, if it flares up, you know, it would start out as a bright kind of fuzzy speck in the night sky. As it gets closer and closer to the sun in November, it would just get bigger. The tail would sweep out, you know, possibly covering much of the sky. It could be brighter than the full moon at night, and it just could be just an awesome experience.
It would be really cool to watch them. I mean, this could be quite spectacular.
This to me is probably the sky watching event of the year.
Well, let's hope it lives up to its title.
And there shall be signs in the sun, and in the moon, and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring.
Whole new meaning on that song lyric, Black Hole Sun. Scientists at NASA have given us some amazing images, and they've discovered there's actually an enormous dark hole over our sun.
What you're seeing is, this is 3.5 million degree plasma erupting from the surface of the sun. This part that's missing, the reason it's dark, is that whole chunk of the sun basically ripped off, blew out, and is coming our way at about 2 million miles an hour.
Our way.
I don't, again, I have to go back to what I said before. These are very rare events. From the information that we have on asteroids that we've discovered of all sizes, we don't know of one that will threaten the population of the United States, you know, in 3 weeks. And we are trying very diligently, as I said before, with the President's budget, to put ourselves in a position where we advance the technology such that 3 weeks will not be something that causes us to panic, because we will be able to respond. We are where we are today because, you know, you all told us to do something, and between the administration and the Congress, the funding to do that did not. The bottom line is always, the funding did not come, and I don't care whose fault it is, or if it's anybody's fault. We all know what we're facing today, and we're all sitting here today as the Congress and the administration try to figure out sequestration, something that never should have happened, nobody planned to happen, but we're facing it today. And so the answer to you is, if it's coming in 3 weeks, pray. If we find that out right now, and that's not bad.
That's reality.
That's not bad policy, though.
Yeah.
I'm a practicing Episcopalian, and I love what the Pope's doing right now. I'll tell you, that things have happened. You got to pray. What? I'm a practicing Episcopalian, and I love what the Pope's doing right now. I'll tell you, that things have happened. You got to pray. Best plan we have. And if we want to save the planet, because I think that's what we're talking about, then we have to get together, that side, and decide how we're going to execute that plan as expeditiously as possible. That's all I can tell you.